Hello, everybody. Good morning, and welcome back to the day 2 of NordSec 2025. So, sorry, after effects of yesterday night. So, yes, it means like we enjoyed well at night. Today we are going to start with our second keynote speaker, Kalev. So, Kalev is the CEO of SKID Solutions, a leading trust service provider in Baltic regions. SKID Solutions issues certificates for national identity documents, for instance, like ID card, mobile ID, smart ID, and develops secure authentication and digital signing solutions used across financial, health, and public sectors. He also chairs the Information Security Council at the Estonian Association of Information Technology and Telecommunications, advocating for cybersecurity and digital identity standards in Estonia and across the EU. His today talk's topic is, can we be secure without innovation? Quite interesting topic. Yesterday, we had a lot of interesting discussion, and today I truly believe that this keynote is going to be the fantastic as well. So please join with me to warmly welcome Kalev.
Thank you, scared to be here, but honored as well. This is me, and I will talk a little bit about what I think about the topic that was announced. I have now almost like 28 years dealt with digital identity or electronic identity in some shape or form. So that means that it was some years before Estonia had one. It still is an interesting topic. Can't put too much into this short talk here, but I try to slip in some of my own experience as well. But the Estonian digital identity story has not been like a scientific research. It has been a series of lucky accidents, and what I try to maybe convey here is that you have to be innovative and quite agile to recognize those accidents that are lucky and to distinguish them from those unlucky and very miserable accidents. And maybe that's kind of the preparation for the talk, so it's not going to be a huge amount of waterfall scientific research, like thinking out what the outcome should be, hypothesis, and then ending up somewhere nice. No, that probably isn't the thing that I'm strongly believing in, but I will go to the topic now. So the topic was, can we be secure without innovation? And it's quite of a 1 hour talk. Yesterday we heard that there were like 62 papers which were left out of the conference. They wanted to be here but couldn't make it here. I will take an hour, which would mean that in 2 different rooms that would take like 4 additional papers to the conference. So I could have like made it very quick. That would be nope, and that's my talk, and I could leave. And that would be additional 4 papers on a conference that unfortunately won't happen because those 4 are not ready. So I still need to carry on for an additional like 45 minutes to have some questions as well at the end. We'll discuss it in a way where I first want to explain where my focus is when I'm thinking about the security, and also a little bit about the innovation part, but mostly about the security. Then what type of issues are reasonable to address. We have seen a huge amount of interesting, very important issues to be addressed yesterday. Probably will see them today as well. I will have my own take on that. A little bit about where the solution could be, because if I would know the solution, probably wouldn't be talking to you here. More on where it could be, where to search for it, and yeah, a short summary at the end. So first of all, the focus. The focus is a human being. If we talk about can we be secure, then we essentially are humans at the moment. So we talk about security and being secure as a human being. Although like this human being is ultimately like vulnerable, they are extremely valuable for whatever reason. Like the belief is that they are extremely valuable, and they are mostly unchangeable. Like they're very hard to change. If you think about the human being, like we tend to say that we develop ourselves, but not to very huge degree. Like we have some limitations built in our DNA and our cultural inheritance and everything like that. So, but I love those humans, and therefore I'm caring about the security of humans. So that's kind of the thinking behind it. And yeah, by default, by design, that person should be secure, but evidently they are unsecure by default and by design. We are quite vulnerable by everything. Like if a human baby is born, well, they are incapable to almost anything. Yeah, like we are vulnerable. By default, by design, we don't protect ourselves very well. And that goes also to the brain. Like we as human beings are not very well equipped to be protected against attacks around us. We tend to believe that others around us are good by nature. They love us as we do, and we trust them, because if we wouldn't trust them, the whole society wouldn't work. So that's kind of the insecurity by design. We don't necessarily always doubt that the person telling story to us is lying. Like you, at the moment, you don't believe that I'm lying to you. Like that's not the first thought in your head. At the end of a talk, maybe. Now, still you believe. Yeah. So that's how we focus the talk that I'm going to have. Normally, we do fear the other person. Like in nature, a human being, as a grown-up in a society, needs to fear only one type of animal, and that's human being. And when we kind of bring more and more technology into it, we tend to kind of shift the focus to the technology and saying that the technology is a threat. Now we are talking AI will be a threat. And it won't. Like AI is a threat only in the hands of another human. So still the human is a threat to a human. Technology is meant to be, like by law now already, secure by design, by default. And we really don't know what it means if something is secure by default and by design. We tried, like as it was said already, we tried in ICT Association of Estonia to write down like what kind of code is secure by default and by design. Like if people are going to create a software, can they explain what do they mean if they do by default, by design secure software? Like just to write it down, like not to ask for each project, but simply write it down. This is what we mean, and that's how we deliver it. We ended up with one A4, like ground rules. But it was a heavy fight for each sentence, whether this is or isn't every time necessary, if that is applicable everywhere, like. And to some degree, these things maybe are not important at all, that somebody wanted to write in there. So at least as an industry, we don't know what it is. Maybe as scientists, you know what it is. As an industry, we don't. We have a huge debate. What is secure by default, by design, where the kind of actual line goes. So of course, when talking about security, it makes sense to kind of remember that what type of threats do we have? And it's very important to understand that not all the attacks are meant to be attacks. And this is like a huge part of the security discourse, that a lot of that is done by a friendly neighbor who in all of their goodness tried to help us, but we were damaged afterwards. Yeah, so if we build security and we talk about security, it's not only about the attacker who is malicious by intent. Yeah, we need to protect and be secure against the goodwill of other human beings. It's very, very important. Yep. So, my kind of last 15 years at least, talk has always been that the smarter the device, the dumber the user. This is by definition so. Like if you think about any great technology we currently have, if you think about the phone that you all have, if you think about the car, like 30 years ago, if somebody had a car, they were able to fix the engine like 50% of the time. They were able to understand how it started up. They were able to detect whether the brakes still work or don't. They knew something about the car itself. I would say that today, more than 80% of the people know where the wheel is. Yeah, and that's what they need. And if they want to fix the engine, they will definitely screw it up. This is kind of insanely complicated now compared to 30 years ago. But the car is definitely smarter from the functions point of view. It does better things for us out of the goodness of the engineers. Like the car is better now. I remember, like, I think it was 6-7 years ago when I picked a car. I was able to pick a car which didn't have the ability to mess up my steering. Like it didn't have a parking function that it could park itself. Last year I bought a car which parks itself, and I'm scared. But it can take over the steering anytime, at any speed at the end of the day. I know that. I'm scared of the car because it's smart, and I'm not. So the point there is that we are making greater and better tools, leaving the users of the technology, well, dumber to some degree, not so smart. And we need, in the society, smarter people still to do smarter tools. So inherently, that means that we will have a cluster of people who are smart, really, 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 really smart, probably you guys here, and then the rest of us. Yeah? They don't understand a thing. But it needs kind of societal kind of growing bed or some kind of a greenhouse where all of those smart people come from. But if everything does us dumber, well, it's not believable that there will be much smart people around doing much smarter tools in the future. So it's kind of inherently problematic as well. But that's not the point of today's talk. Today's talk is about like when the user is dumb and the device is smart, there is a huge, huge potential for damage. And the one reason to be, like as I said, a very good-hearted person can do a huge damage with a goodwill that they have. But mostly still the smart device allows to do smart and complicated attacks. And then the poor human being bears the losses at the end. The losses actually grow all the time. And the reason for that is that there is a very, very, very innovative sector in the world, and that is a criminal world. The criminal sector is innovating all the time. They have a lot of good reasons to do that, and to understand why that happens, then we go to that innovation lab for a moment, which you probably know how it all works, but still maybe makes sense to go over that. So if human is in the center, the issue is that the technology that they may intentionally or unintentionally use, it may harm the other human being. Yeah? And we innovated ourselves into that, and the human innovation normally comes from some kind of factors, and what kind of underlies that in most of that criminal sector innovation comes from the very good motivation, which is greed. Like greed is good motivator to do stuff differently. If the previous method didn't work, didn't give me enough what I need, I will innovate. And I can take, instead of a rock, a gun, or instead of a computer, a server, whatever is the next level tool where I try to innovate. And that's where the it's kind of a innovation bit for criminal sector definitely is. But I think I value the criminals as well as humans, and they are also having dreams. They actually dream about stuff, which is like the positive part of the whole journey of innovation. Like, I dream of a better future for myself, not to you, but to myself, and therefore I'm going to do something different because I want to get there. I have a dream, which is a good talk. Scientists, this is differently motivated. Probably scientists often say that, well, wandering around, had a thought, didn't have anything else in their mind, started to do stuff. Yesterday I loved the talk which said that, well, why did I do this? Seemed that it is easy to do, and it could be published. It's good argumentation to do exactly this. Didn't have a better and quicker way to try something, and there was a potential for publishing. It's an argumentation that in industry you rarely, if ever, meet. But somewhere it can be, like you're simply bored, thinking, what would I do? As a child, what did we do? Like if we were bored, we definitely innovated something. We did something that nobody thought we should do. That is the best example of where this boredom leads to innovation, childhood. So it's one of the sources for the innovation. Any type of scarcity, basically. Anything that you are missing in the ecosystem or you have lack of, you try to overcome this hurdle. And then, of course, you need to have a creative mind. And this creative mind we all have. It's just a question of in which area we have it and how do we engage it to solve the outstanding problem at the moment. And all of that works with a very good intrinsic motivation as well, which isn't written here. But if a person, on top of those boredom or greed or dream, internally really, really, really want that, and they have this creative mind, they will do whatever. And it's sometimes very sad, sometimes a very happy accident, and this is so. But that's how we innovate, and that's where I would say that our adversary, if we think about now the attack vectors and now about the person who is really, really malicious by intent, they have like really good groundwork for being innovative. It's very hard to see how the comfortable Western person in the living room would be very, very, very motivated to innovate because they have the comfort. So that's where I would already like to kind of point out where one of those issues is that we are too comfortable to innovate in a Western world against the threats that we have. So we have like disproportionate lack of motivation against our adversaries. It's a kind of a constant issue. And we are picking maybe the kind of the places where really there is no greed, no dream, but rather boredom. And that's not good. We also should have a dream. And therefore we would have a better innovation path maybe, where to innovate. Okay. So if we innovate, then it will make sense that humans are innovated. As I said, humans are the inherent target of our innovation, or in my talk at least. And then the problem is that we cannot, like the humans are unpatchable. like we cannot patch them much. We can vaccinate them against some diseases, but it rarely, if ever, is good enough for the attackers. So we can only work with the technology, and additional to the technology, we can work with the organizations and the processes where the humans are involved. And that also has been like one of the topics here, and I think that today as well, like how this processes and organizations around people could actually be improved so that the vulnerable inherently by default and by design unsecure humans could survive in the scary world. So that's what we can do. We can kind of improve the processes and we can improve the technology, but both of those are like outside of the human being itself. A little bit about the different ways of innovation I've come across, and I will see how many and where and why stories I will tell, but some. So the scarcity is probably one of the things that goes through all of those journeys. But I will start with the Estonian ID and X-Road creation somewhere like end of 1990s. And the only reason why I think that we have both of those, X-Road and which is the data exchange layer in Estonia, and then the digital identity, in a way how we have it, because we had both dreams and no money. We had really dream to be a culture, a country of dignity, of pride, and doing something better than others, and almost no money to do it. The story of X-Road basically was that, well, none of the governmental agency had money. Everybody wanted to have more money. There was a huge push to have all the money kind of piled together in one central place. But that would have meant that agencies would have had to get rid of some of their budget. Nobody wanted to get rid of their budget. And therefore everybody said, but let's do an integration so that we all do our stuff and we don't have to give out the kind of away our information systems to anybody, but they kind of do the function that you need from the central place. So it's a clever way to innovate to the place where we all were able to keep our money and to make everybody believe that now everything is centrally available. It is also, it's not only belief, but the ground idea was that we were greedy. We didn't want to give away the budget that we had. So everybody here, I don't know, if maybe younger people don't know what the yes minister and yes prime minister are in the comedy world, but whatever you see there, it's truth. That basically that's how it works. In the public sector, growing your budget is your only success measure. And if you would decide to decrease your budget, you are failed public official. You should be fired. So essentially, to create central IT systems would have been the collapse of the public sector in Estonia. Didn't happen. We figured out a different path to that. But with the ID card, it was even more cumbersome because we didn't have anything. And we didn't have the cards. Well, we didn't have a company in Estonia who would do the cards. We didn't have anybody who would be able to print on the cards we wanted. We had no idea what is the chip on the card and how to secure it. And nobody had done it also in the world in a way how we wanted. Thankfully, Finland did it like a year before, so we could copy a lot. That was really a happy accident. And a couple of years before that, the Swedish banking sector did a standard, like how to standardize the applications on a card. And there was an ISO standard that was really fresh on like how to write some application on a card. And that all happened by accident. We didn't do anything. Like we didn't contribute to the standards. We only took them. Like, as they came along. And then we figured out how can we do a national project that doesn't have funding. We didn't have funding. Like we had a good intent. We were able to convince at the end also the government that they would support us to give the electronic identity to every Estonian. Like it's doesn't, like 1.3 million doesn't really sound so much, but to every Estonian sounds better. And that didn't require actually a budget from the government, and that was one of the good ways how to explain it, that you don't need to budget anything for that. Like you just need to say yes. And how did we do that? We said that, well, we will do a public procurement where we say that we pay for the card that is delivered to the police and border, now police and border, then it was a differently named institution. It will be delivered to the doorstep, fully printed, with the electronic part, personalized, everything done, and only then we need to pay. But when that has happened, already like 30 days before, the citizen has paid state fee, which covers all the costs. So like from the budget perspective, that was like zero-sum game. Actually, even like some profits were on the horizon for the government. And that's how we did it. Like we didn't have any money. We did have a huge dream, and we figured out how to do that. Well, in a way, where the politicians could do an easy, progressive decision. And that's only like, I would say 1% of the story. There were so many other happy accidents at the time. Like, that definitely couldn't happen in another government with another governmental it's kind of a coalition agreement, the focuses that they had at the time. All of that was simply magically happening at this point. And we had to have a project to deliver to them. Like, and that was the story in the beginning, as I said, to use those happy accidents. When they happen, you have to recognize them. And then you have to deliver to that something that kind of fits there very well. Because most of us are not powerful enough to actually pull off like huge things ourselves, but we have to rely on others to support us, and then we need to know what the others want to support. Okay, so that was one of the places where we said, well, this is how we get along here in Estonia when we don't have any money. The next part with the money was when we created the company that I'm now chairing. We had an understanding in banking sector at the time that we would like to have a stronger electronic identity, and then for the banking sector. And we calculated together how much it would cost for a bank. Bank is very good with money. They have it normally, but they didn't have it enough. The banking business side at the moment, when they saw the numbers, said, well, the customer will never ever pay for that. That is definitely just a cost item. That is not a business. I came from the public sector by the time. I didn't know what the business is. I just calculated the money. That's what it would cost. And then the way how the SK ID solutions was born was that we said, is there anybody else who would like to share the cost with us? If that is a cost item, then let's go to the market and find somebody else who would like to pay for that, other than this bank where I was from. And we found another bank and a couple of telecoms, and that's how we did it. And sure enough, it was making only losses 8 years in a row. But we did have the company, and we did have the infrastructure, and we do have the infrastructure now. So how to do stuff, again, not a huge innovation. Icelanders did that half a year before us. Belgium has done it after us. Some other countries as well. But the cooperation is the way how to, again, get additional money to your project that you initially didn't have. And maybe then I jump some years ahead and would focus on this thing that we now call Smart ID, which is still brainchild of Estonian scientists. Some of them are definitely sitting in the room here, contributing to that. And there we had this different view on the technology. If I'm currently saying that mostly that the device that you saw as a phone is smart, and we can secure it, then still today we can say that smartphone is unsecure, and we had that notion also in 2015 when we started with the idea that the phone is unsecure, but it's a very good calculator. And one of the things that humans cannot do very well is calculate. And that's why we need those tokens for the identity, that humans are terrible calculators. They don't produce any unique calculation results, or if they do, these are those incorrect answers that nobody is able to verify. This could be a unique outcome of a calculation, but anything that the humans calculates, the smartphone calculates better. Yeah? But if the calculation would be somehow personalized to the level where one device is able to calculate only one type of things, and the whole security part is not relying on this calculation power, but somewhere else. So it could make sense that we can pull off a security in the identity scheme in a way where we don't need to hand over a device, which was so far the notion of any secure digital identity, that we have to give a device. Yesterday there was a discussion like you hand over like NFC token, or you hand over some kind of a smart card in a form of banking card in the Keynote, or then you have a fingerprint, or you have the 6-digit PIN. Well, you should have all of those, of course, if you're lucky, but in a kind of wide-scale model, we needed to have a scheme that is rolled out across Baltics, less than a year, roughly 4 million targeted end users, and nobody wanted to see them. That's the whole point. Nobody in the Baltics wanted to see those 4 million users. And we thought that they all have those nice calculators, and let's try to use those calculators, but still remain somewhat secure in the whole scheme. And yeah, that was, again, the dream, the scarcity, really the push from the sector that please make something that can be done. So otherwise, a lot of banks would have opened probably additional amount of offices across Baltics. A lot of people would have had work for a year or so, probably a good thing, but at the end, maybe not the best and efficient identity scheme. So again, back to the innovation part, there was a need very clearly, some kind of a dream of somebody that this could be done. Anything that we had available didn't work. We needed to do something new. We did something new, worked out. To be fair, we tried different things before the Smart Day was born in the same project. Didn't work, was not very fun. Used the similar calculators, a bit different calculators. But we managed at the end. And with that kind of a introduction, maybe we now jump to the point where I am at least today. It is this kind of a world where we have this post-quantum cryptography coming soon to rule the world. And not because we have the Q day coming. Yesterday I told that we still are like using Shor algorithm to do maximum 15 factorization. Yeah? Nobody has done 21 or hasn't. Like, anybody knows? No, we still are afraid of the quantum computer, but the quantum computer so far, or the algorithm we are afraid of, is able to factorize like 15. Like the kids in second grade can do that. Yeah. So it's not a very powerful thing at the moment. And it hasn't improved 6 years, I think, 7 years. When was the first time it was definitely 20-something teens when the first time the 15 was factorized. So maybe we shouldn't like be too scared of that, but it doesn't matter that we here could agree that maybe it isn't like so scary today, and tomorrow or the day after, we will be forced to migrate. The timeline is there, 2030, everybody should be ready, and all the current algorithms are out of the window 2035. So that's the push from the industry, from the different countries around the world, and we need to do that. That's basically 10 years, and it's less than we need. We will fail with that job. As a general population, we will fail. I don't know why we fail, but we will. We have failed with all the algorithmic advances. We have always been late. We were late with MD5, with SHA-1, with RSA 5K, with RSA 1K, well, not 5K, 0.5K RSA. So we knew that. We had timelines. We, as industry, we committed to the timelines. Yes, that's the time when we need to jump, and then every time. I remember like 2010-ish, there was still some CAs, certification authorities in the world, who were saying that, but we still have this like 512 RSA CA working here because the customers are not able to migrate yet. Like roughly 2010 was the year. I was so late. I wasn't didn't even know why the customer would bother encrypt anything there. It didn't matter, but yeah, they did it. So we will be late. Somehow we will be late. I know how you are the clever guys here, thinking how can we jump actually to the post-quantum very quickly. But similarly, you have to figure out who are the ones who are stopping you in jumping, because there will be those hurdles that you have to overcome. Me too. And the other thing, of course, we live in the crisis of ourselves, like which we have done in Europe, and we are living in a very different era than I used to know. We are living in an era where the innovation and the target of innovation, not even like in a broad sense, but in a very detailed manner, is written in the law first. Like first we will have the regulation, which will in details describe what we have to innovate. Not the goals, not kind of the measurements, how we could measure that something is good enough for like what kind of test it should pass. It's clearly what to do in the regulation. And then we have now in two different occasions, like the timeline is 2.5 years. Whatever the Parliament and Council and the Commission have come up with, this is to be implemented in the wild in 2.5 years. And it's something that nobody has ever seen. And it's something that has contradicting goals, contradicting requirements built in. And we have to now pull it off. In a European Digital Identity Wallet, we have less than a year now from day now. In a year, by that notion, 27 member states should have an European Digital Identity Wallet. There's yet to be a single digital identity wallet in any lab in any part of the world. Maybe somewhere in the universe, but not on Earth. But the goal is to have it available to citizens of or residents of 27 member states in a year. Cool. The same thing happens in different other parts of the European legislation. This is different type of innovation, different times of innovation, where we have to innovate against not so much of a dream, but a specification. And the specification is very, very, very hard to change because it goes through the Council, the Parliament of European Union, very, very hard to change. Times of innovation have changed for me. Like if I, 25 years ago, was able to go to Estonian government and convince them, guys, please write this small thing into the Estonian law, and then magic will happen. There is no magical place where I could go and say that, well, this European digital identity world, like this could be changed in this or the other direction, magically somehow, somewhere. No. I was 4 years of misery, then the regulation, and 2.5 years of total despair and waste of money on something that never comes, maybe. But that's how we innovate now. It's different time in the world, but I'm still hopeful humanity will survive. Okay, wrapping up to at least some degree. So first, where we are, where do we innovate? Like the world of innovation is different. So we are in the times of trade wars. Like we across the world, we really are afraid of each other. We are made to believe that the others are trying to steal from us, for them, and in huge quantities. And they are definitely unfair towards us. Like, that's the kind of a overlying theme there. But at the same time, we have kind of across the globe, we have global supply chains. Almost nothing is produced anywhere specifically. Almost everything that is produced globally. So it has some raw materials from one place, some details and modules from another place, and then they compile it all together in a third place, and they run it actually on a fourth place. And those are like shifts in continents, not in countries or kilometers. So it's a very hard place to be. And it is interesting, and you can do the thought experience as well. If you would think that here would be two sets of people, like there would be two groups on a stage. On one corner, you would have like the biggest economies and the leaders of the countries, of like G7 or like change Canada and Italy to China and India. They're like biggest economies of the world. You would have like US there, Canada there, France there, Germany there, China there, India there, Japan there. Their leaders would talk about like what is the future in 5 to 10 years, what is going to happen. Like they would have talks and enthusiastically tell you about what they see. And in the other corner, you would see 7 biggest companies of the world. You would get NVIDIA on a stage, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet. You would get Broadcom here, probably Saudi Aramco, and they would tell you what the future 5 to 10 years would be. Whom would you believe? Like, who would tell a story that you would believe that comes to life? Who's ruling the world, therefore? Who is currently making the rules, and who is really pushing the world where they want to? And I don't know what you answered, I don't want to know, but you have your own answer. And at the same time, we are still heating up the world as there is no tomorrow. Because both of those first statements lead to the belief that the global agreement is impossible. If we are in this trade world situation, we cannot come together and make kind of a global agreement, and let's not kill ourselves. Kind of doesn't work in a war, yeah? we are in a war, therefore we compete, and therefore it doesn't matter what do I do until I win. The supply chains mostly are about business. They are about making profits. Therefore, they are not optimizing for the global general good in 20, 30, 50, 100 years. It's not meant to be optimized like that. So kind of those first big two notions, like these showstoppers, there are more about this kind of hurdles for the global warming to be stopped, not be great helpers of that. And of course, the AI is heating up the world better than anything else. And it's not only heating up the earth, but it's also heating up the market. And the bubble is huge. And if you want to innovate on something, innovate on how we survive if that bubble bursts. The devastation in the world, if that happens, I don't know how much you have calculated the air that is in this bubble. But if it bursts, like how empty will be all of our pension funds, which we have gathered, like we have invested, they are investing that money somewhere. And to a large degree, that the investment has gone to tech. And well, if kind of the promise is not delivered, how do we survive that? How our elderly will survive that they don't have anything left after 30 years, 40 years of gathering money for their nice pension? What do we do then? How do we help those people? As I said, human being is in the center. How do we help the human being? And all of those things are happening at the same time, so it's a very hard place where to be. So these are not working well together, and we have to be very innovative to survive as a species here and to thrive as a species here. And I really think that we need to focus here at trying to end now the talk somewhere in a better note than maybe so far has been. So we have this new tech, and humans are plausible source of this kind of a future agility. So we have the new technology for the humans. We should do that keeping in mind that the humans are inherently vulnerable. They are not very good with the new technology and not as capable as you guys are in this room here. Most of the people in the world are not on your level, so you have to develop to somebody else, not to yourself. The new rules, they are actually making us all learn constantly, so we have this lifelong learning, but maybe it shouldn't be about the rule sets. Maybe we should have some more meaningful things to learn over the years. So the technology companies and the bigger countries have decided that this kind of a lucrative technology is a way how to manipulate the people. So technology and the rule sets together kind of try also to manipulate the person. And the person in this whole center is overloaded. And I think that that's the biggest obstacle of any real implementation now. And we have so many good ideas that we have too many good ideas. And the fact that we have too many good ideas will actually break the whole system. The receiving end of that, which is human being, is not able to make a good decision what to believe, what to take in, and what to avoid. To make it simple, make it invisible is a key here. So how to reduce the overload that people have. How to make sure that every decision is valued. At the moment, we don't do that. Anybody outside of European Union here? Lucky you. Because in the European Union, like, we don't value the human decisions because we are pushed, like by the GDPR, we are pushed to accept cookies in every web page. And each one of those, like not like the whole bunch of those, but if in a single page there are those like 20 and 30 different cookies, we have to decide, like, do we want this specific cookie? actually really, really meaningful use of our brains. By the end of the first page, going through these terms and conditions, you have actually spent the whole cognitive attention span you have for the day. And that is true in Europe, and thankfully outside of European Union you don't have to. Better life, better decision. But here we do, and here everything is visible, everything is believed to be under control of the person, when in fact the person has been made guilty of everything that happens. That's the true story. So, summary. Human, unsecure, device actually, to some level, unsecure but very smart. Still, the power in the world is in the hands of people. And that's why still the technology companies bother to manipulate with people. Still, we don't send AI to vote. And that's the last place where humans matter at the moment, at least in some parts of the world. And that's what we need to protect then, that we would matter in the future. So let's not innovate ourselves out of the loop, but let's consider the technology that we are using as a gate to human being. And if that is a gate to human being and to manipulate with human being, then the cognitive overload is one of the biggest problems that we currently have. And we should design things in a way where as rarely as possible and as meaningfully as possible, we engage people. It's very hard to do, and I have no clue how to do that. But if you can, then please do, any questions? Thank you.
Questions? Who's going first? Yes.
No question.
Thanks a lot for the thought-provoking keynote. In EUDI, I fully agree that we'll fail to deliver until the end of next year. I don't know why that was written into their procedures to deliver within 2.5 years. We are still writing the specs on some of the more detailed, nuanced parts. So since I've been involved in that process a little bit from the sideline, trying to counsel on what to write and what not to write, you've got much more experience in actually putting those systems in place. What do you think will actually happen with the current EUDI by the end, EUDI wallet by the end of 26? Will we just be late, but will we deliver with 2 to 3 years delay the wallets that actually match the specifications? Will the whole thing fail spectacularly? Will the specs have to change to match what we actually managed to deliver within a year? What do you think is the most probable path?
The answer is yes. So yes, so first of all, for sure, the date will not be met, and we will not deliver anything meaningful end of next year. It will be, in my personal opinion, a catastrophic failure across the board, but as it is a legal obligation and not so much anymore a tool to help to solve any problems. So that happened with this shift when it was manifested in this regulation, was that until that was written down and said, well, this is the tool and this is the deadline and these are the descriptive kind of sentences in the regulation about it, it became from a dream of a bunch of people who really wanted to have a better world, and all of them like from a very good place in their heart to improve the humanity. They just simply were different and not maybe making a symphony rather a cacophony altogether. But it became a legal obligation for member states. And now all the member states are not focused on what can we kind of actually get from it, but in reality they all try to put something to the market as quickly as possible to avoid any tariffs or like penalties from the Commission. This is not a good motivation. It doesn't bring a working solution to the table. And actually the working solution was off the table with the first set of implementing acts. When I had like some hope until this point, it then went away. And the reason for that is that we had written in that we want to have like a cross-border European identity. And Commission had to come up with the implementing acts for a lot of things for the wallet to work. And in the first set of implementing acts, as they were not able to deliver in half a year meaningful technical specs, to be fair, wasn't possible to do. But they could have like prolonged that for a year and a half, and all the other deadlines would have been postponed similarly. That was written in. So they didn't, they pushed something to the market in a half a year, not to fail, not to be the first ones to fail there. And now we all others in the scheme are left to fail because of them. But they wrote in that, well, all the member states are on their own, doing their own wallets in their own ecosystem for their own basically market. And that means that whatever we do in different member states will not be cross-border usable in a manner how it was envisioned, because we don't certify against international interoperability, but we certify for the member state bound interoperability. So in a sense, the biggest hope, the biggest thing we needed to have was the cross-border identity. For that, we should talk about identity and not technology. And we still talk about technology. We think that the technology will solve the understanding that, or like the misunderstanding we have between countries, what means identity, like who is who and where. So yeah, to an extent we prolong the date. We will probably have like, again, 20 member states at least who are doing the wallet. So you will have it. They only need in all the member states to issue at least one. If everybody will issue one, then we have like roughly 25 wallets in the European ecosystem, which must be used in different industries across the Europe. So like all the banks and public sector services will accept those 25. But they will have a hard time to understand who is the person logging in, who is the person doing the actions, because we haven't agreed how to identify a person across borders. So that would be the key thing to deliver. How do we understand in different member states who is who?
Do you know the certification implementing act? Is that been released?
Yep.
Okay. I haven't caught up.
Yeah, but the certification, unfortunately, is member state bound. So member state will create their own scheme, bring that to the Brussels. So it goes to this committee that evaluates whether like they agree with the member state's proposal. There is no ENISA scheme. ENISA is still figuring out if they will ever have a scheme. And if they will have a scheme, it will be stuck in the same place where the cloud security currently is stuck, because there are member states who have already a solution that would be hurt by the ENISA scheme, and they are able to actually veto the ENISA scheme. So kind of it's not a good place where to be.
Thank you, very interesting talk. So it's a bit related question. So what's the situation of innovation in Europe? Do you think it's falling back? And if it is, what's the reason?
Innovation in Europe?
By the way, numbers say it's falling back. So what I want your opinion.
To be fair, I think that the innovation in Europe is doing well. Unfortunately, we monetize the innovation outside of Europe. So we are very good in innovating. We have great scientists. We have excellent new ideas on how to improve the world. But when the idea needs to materialize somewhere in a product, then it doesn't have the air in Europe to thrive. And I think that the best example of that was, again, I have to go back and see it out. But when the DeepSeek was launched in China, then half a year before that, there was a paper in Germany published in a scientific journal that, okay, this is a way how we could do the models quicker, better, cheaper. And that was exactly what the DeepSeek actually published, but the news article in the scientific paper in Germany didn't ring any bells anywhere in the world. The DeepSeek launch in China did. So again, this is where we are. We are innovating. We are educating the world, but it's somebody else's win. Like take the algorithmic innovations or like standardization in NIST. Like the US scientists are not writing the standards for the next cryptography almost. They are buying it in, and often from Europe as well. So I think we are doing good in innovation.
As I told, this talk is going to be fantastic, and I see like Kalev has a lot of things to share. So let's take one more question and then remaining discussion on the coffee.
If I'm organized crime, then Schengen is a great innovation, because then I can move around Europe with my criminal organization. Yeah. And in the same way, maybe a European ID, European-wide ID, is also great for organized crime, because then every country has to accept my identity. And I can roam around Europe with multiple identities. So maybe the European EID will help organized crime. So it's like an identity Schengen. So Schengen is not necessarily good. It's very good for criminal organizations. So maybe the European EID also is good for criminals. What do you think?
It's excellent for criminals. It don't have to be very organized even. The whole point is that you can attack a wallet user, and by definition, outside of the wallet instance and the wallet user domain, there should be no traces of what you have done. And there is a right to delete all the history of that wallet by the user. So basically, you don't have to be very organized. You can attack a single person as a single criminal, and you can delete all of your traces from the same place you committed the crime, and there should be nothing outside. It's a terrible tool from that angle. But again, this is something that we always struggle, and I would say that in my years of implementing the different things, I've always said that, well, we will take the risk of some misbehavior. Some misuse will happen, but let's design the system for the usage. So until we keep in mind that it is actually usable, used heavily, used much, we can take in the penalty of some misusage. But we have to help, of course, those who get the penalties, and that's where we maybe have failed, like in Estonia at the moment as well, I think. We don't help enough, I think, those who are caught under the attack. But inherently, in a wallet ecosystem, the problem is that we don't design for the usage, but we also haven't designed to avoid the misuses. So we've done both sides maybe incorrectly. So it's a good point. It's a terrible tool, but it will come because it's an obligation.
Thank you so much, Kalev.
Thank you.
And, here is
have fun.